Are you living in the lie? Signs you're being misled. What if I told you that much of what you believe, much of what you trust, much of what you assume to be real might not be real at all? What if your entire perception of life, society, success, happiness, and even your own identity was built on a foundation of illusions? This isn't just some abstract philosophical exercise. This is your life. And if you don't challenge the assumptions you've been handed, you might spend your entire existence living inside a constructed narrative that was never yours to begin with. We wake up every day assuming that the world is as it appears. But is it? When you look at the systems that govern your life, education, work, relationships, morality, do you ever stop to ask, who decided this was the right way? Who benefits from me believing this? And most importantly, what happens if I start questioning it? The truth is, from the moment we are born, we are conditioned, but conditioned to follow rules we never agreed to, conditioned to chase goals we never questioned, conditioned to fit into molds that may have nothing to do with what we truly want or who we truly are. And the scariest part, most people never realize it. They live, they die, and they never once stop to ask, was I ever truly free? Consider this: you go to school, you're told what to learn, how to behave, and what success looks like. You're graded, ranked, and judged based on criteria you had no say in. Then you enter the workforce, where you trade your time and energy for money, often in jobs that drain you, in systems designed to keep you just comfortable enough to not rebel. You are sold an idea of happiness: buy this, achieve that, follow this path, and yet, deep inside, something feels off. You hit the milestones you were told would fulfill you, yet the fulfillment never comes. Why? Because the rules of the game were never designed for your happiness. They were designed for your obedience.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
But let's go deeper. What if even your sense of self is a lie? Think about it. Every belief you hold about yourself, your strengths, your weaknesses, your worth, is largely shaped by external narratives. Maybe you were told as a child that you weren't smart, and you carried that belief into adulthood, limiting your own potential. Maybe society told you that success means wealth and status, so you spend your life chasing them, never stopping to ask if they actually bring you joy. Maybe you were conditioned to believe that love looks a certain way, that relationships must follow a certain script, and you never questioned whether that script serves you. If your entire identity is built on narratives you never chose, then who are you really? And here's where it gets even more unsettling. The more you try to break free, the more resistance you will face. Try questioning conventional wisdom, and you'll be told you're naive. Try rejecting societal expectations, and you'll be labeled as rebellious or even irresponsible. Why? Because the system depends on your participation. If too many people start questioning the script, the whole structure begins to crumble. And so, there are safeguards in place: fear, ridicule, social pressure to keep you in line. This is why people defend the very systems that oppress them. Because it is easier to believe in the lie than to face the terrifying uncertainty of the unknown. So, I ask you, how much of your life is truly yours? How many of your choices have been made freely, without the influence of conditioning, fear, or societal pressure? And if you realize that you've been living inside a carefully constructed illusion, what will you do about it? Will you cling to the comfort of the familiar, even if it's false? Or will you dare to step into the unknown, where true freedom begins? The matrix of perception, how your reality is engineered. If you've ever felt like something about the world doesn't quite add up, like there's a veil over your eyes that you can't fully lift, you're not alone. We live in a reality that is not entirely of our own making, yet we rarely stop to question who or what is doing the making. Your perception of life, of truth, of right and wrong is not as organic as you think. It has been engineered, carefully constructed through systems, media, culture, and language, all designed to shape the way you think, what you desire, and even what you fear. And the most powerful part, you don't even realize it's happening. Think about the way you interact with information. From the moment you wake up, you are bombarded with narratives on the news, on social media, in casual conversations. But who controls these narratives? Who decides what is important and what is not? Who determines what you should care about, what should enrage you, what should make you feel inadequate, what should make you feel successful? The truth is, perception is not passive. It is actively shaped. Governments, corporations, and institutions understand this better than anyone. But they know that controlling what people believe is far more effective than controlling what they do. If you can shape someone's reality, you don't need to force them to act a certain way. They will do it themselves, believing it was their own idea all along. Consider the illusion of choice. You walk into a store and see 100 different brands of the same product. You feel like you have a choice, but do you really? The companies behind them may belong to the same conglomerate, but the products are nearly identical, but the packaging, the marketing, the branding, they all create the illusion of variety. The same happens in politics, in career paths, in social norms. You are given options, but all within a predefined system. The moment you step outside of that system, you realize how little true choice you've actually had. This extends to how you see yourself. Your identity is not formed in isolation. It is molded by expectations, by your family, by your culture, by the historical moment in which you exist. If you had been born in another century, in another corner of the world, would you still be the same person? Would you hold the same values? Would you chase the same dreams? Or would an entirely different set of influences shape an entirely different version of you? If that's the case, then how much of your identity is truly yours, and how much of it is a product of the time and place you happen to be born into? Now, let's talk about fear, one of the most powerful tools of control. Fear keeps societies in line. It makes people easier to govern, easier to manipulate, easier to sell things to. Fear of failure keeps people trapped in jobs they hate. Fear of rejection keeps people from speaking their truths. Fear of the unknown keeps people clinging to broken systems because at least they are familiar. But what happens when you stop letting fear dictate your life? What happens when you realize that many of the things you are afraid of were placed in your mind by forces that benefit from your compliance? Imagine how much of your potential is locked away by fears that were never truly yours to begin with. Let's go deeper. Even time, the very structure by which we organize our lives, is a construct. The way we divide our days, our years, our lifetimes, is an agreement, a framework we have all accepted. But what if it was different? What if the way we measure productivity, aging, success was nothing more than an arbitrary system? There are cultures that have no word for retirement because the idea of stopping work at a certain age simply doesn't exist in their worldview. There are societies that don't structure their days by hours, but by the natural rhythms of the environment. If even something as fundamental as time can be engineered, What else in your life is merely a construct? The most dangerous illusion of all is the belief that things are the way they are because they must be. That the world cannot change, that you cannot change, that questioning the structure of reality is pointless because this is just the way it is. But history tells us otherwise. Every great shift in society, every revolution of thought, every moment of progress has come from someone daring to ask, does it have to be this way? Could there be another way? And more importantly, what happens if I refuse to play by the rules of a game I never agreed to? So, I leave you with this. What if everything you've been taught about what is possible, what is valuable, what is real was just one version of reality among infinite possibilities? What if the lie you've been living in is simply the most convenient one for those in power? And what if the only way to truly wake up is to start questioning relentlessly until you break free from the engineered perception that has held you captive? Breaking the chains, how to escape the illusion and reclaim your mind. Once you begin to see the illusion for what it is, the question becomes, how do you escape it? How do you carve a path that is truly your own when everything around you is designed to keep you inside the carefully crafted boundaries of perception? The truth is, waking up is not a single moment of realization. It is a continuous process of unlearning, questioning, and reconstructing reality on your own terms. And it is not easy. The deeper you go, the more resistance you will face, not just from the world, but from within yourself. Because stepping outside of the illusion means stepping into the unknown, and the unknown is terrifying. But it is also where true freedom begins. The first and most crucial step is awareness. You cannot change what you do not see. The moment you begin to recognize how narratives are shaped, how fear is used as a tool of control, how your desires have been subtly influenced by forces outside of you, you start to regain power. You begin to separate what is truly yours from what was imposed upon you. But awareness alone is not enough. Many people realize they are inside the illusion, but still choose to stay because leaving requires something far more difficult, the willingness to let go. Letting go means questioning everything you once took for granted. It means asking yourself, do I truly want the life I am living, or was I conditioned to want it? Do I really believe in the ideas I defend, or was I simply taught to accept them? If I had no fear of judgment, no fear of failure, no pressure to conform, what kind of life would I build for myself? These questions are not easy to answer because they force you to confront the possibility that much of what you have built your identity around might not be real. And that realization is deeply unsettling. But it is also the key to liberation. The next step is deprogramming. Just as a computer can be programmed to run a certain way, so too can the human mind. And just like a computer, you can rewrite your code. This begins with what you consume. Every piece of information you absorb shapes your perception. If you constantly expose yourself to mainstream narratives, fear-based news, and mindless entertainment designed to keep you distracted, your mind remains trapped in the system. But if you start seeking knowledge outside of the prescribed sources, if you read the works of thinkers who challenge conventional wisdom, if you surround yourself with people who question rather than conform, you begin to rewire your mind. You begin to see patterns you never noticed before. You begin to think in ways you never thought possible. But escaping the illusion is not just an intellectual exercise. It is a deeply personal, emotional, and even spiritual journey. You must face your fears head-on. Fear is the invisible chain that keeps people from breaking free. fear of failing, fear of being alone, fear of uncertainty. But here's the paradox: the things you fear most are often the very things that will set you free. When you stop fearing failure, you start taking risks that lead to real growth. When you stop fearing loneliness, you realize that solitude is a powerful tool for self-discovery. When you stop fearing uncertainty, you open yourself up to possibilities you never imagined. Perhaps the most radical act of breaking free is redefining success and happiness on your own terms. Society has sold you a version of success that keeps you chasing endlessly more money, more status, more approval. But what happens when you stop playing that game? What happens when you decide that success is not about accumulation but about alignment? Not about how much you own, but about how deeply you live. Not about external validation, but about internal peace. The moment you redefine success for yourself, you step outside of the system that was built to control you. You become untouchable, because a person who does not crave approval, who does not fear loss, who does not seek meaning in material things, is a person who cannot be manipulated. But here's the greatest challenge of all: even after you break free, the world remains the same. The systems of control do not disappear just because you see them for what they are. The people around you may still be asleep, still playing the game, still defending the illusion. And this is where many people fall back asleep, because it is easier to blend in than to stand alone. It is easier to follow the script than to write your own. It is easier to pretend you do not see than to live in a world where you are one of the few who does. So what do? You become the architect of your own reality. You build a life that aligns with your truth, even if it looks nothing like what society expects. You surround yourself with those who challenge you, who push you to think deeper, who refuse to accept the ordinary. You create, you explore, you question, and you never stop questioning. And most importantly, you live not by default, not by habit, not by someone else's blueprint, but with intention. Because at the end of it all, the real question is this: will you live a life that was designed for you by forces you never questioned? Or will you have the courage to step into the unknown and create something entirely your own? The final awakening: what it truly means to be free. What does it truly mean to be free? Is it the ability to go wherever you want, to make your own choices, to live without external constraints? Or is freedom something far deeper, something that exists not in the external world, but in the mind? Because the truth is, you can have all the money, all the power, all the independence in the world, and still be trapped. Trapped by your fears, by your conditioning, by the invisible forces that shape the way you think, feel, and perceive reality. True freedom is not about escaping the world, it is about escaping the illusions that control you from within. Most people believe they are free simply because they do not see the walls of their prison. They follow the path laid out for them, they chase the dreams they were taught to chase, they fight for the things they were told to value, and they never stop to ask, were these things ever truly mine? But real freedom begins the moment you realize that the prison was never physical. It was always psychological. It was the beliefs you never questioned, the fears you never confronted, the assumptions you never challenged. And once you see that, you cannot unsee it. But here's the paradox: true freedom is terrifying. Because once you wake up, you can no longer blame the system, or society, or anyone else for your life. You realize that the responsibility is entirely yours. No more excuses. No more waiting for someone to save you. No more playing the victim. And that level of responsibility is something most people are not ready for. Because when you are truly free, there is no script to follow, no predetermined path, no guarantees. Just you and the infinite possibilities of what your life could become. This is why so many people, even after glimpsing the truth, choose to go back to sleep. Because the illusion, for all its limitations, is comfortable. It provides certainty. It tells you what to do, how to live, what to believe. It gives you a sense of belonging, even if that belonging comes at the cost of your own individuality. Waking up, on the other hand, means walking alone at least for a while. It means embracing the unknown. It means realizing that no one is coming to give you permission to live the life you truly want. You must claim it for yourself. And this is where the final awakening happens. When you stop waiting, when you stop seeking permission, when you stop looking outside of yourself for answers that were always within you. Because the truth is, you don't need validation. You don't need approval. You don't need the world to understand you. You just need to live in alignment with what you know to be true. And that is the rarest, most powerful form of freedom there is. So, I leave you with this. What will you do with this knowledge? Will you let it fade, return to the comfort of the familiar, pretend you never saw beyond the illusion? Or will you take the harder path, the path of true self-ownership, true independence, true freedom? Because if you do, everything changes. Not just how you see the world, but how you exist within it. And in that moment, you will realize that the greatest lie you were ever told was that you were powerless. You were never powerless. You just had to wake up.